right, another beautiful Sunday evening is here, day number 13 in the month of April 2025. Good evening and welcome to Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Regional Authority, Well PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and our media partner on this journey of a lifetime is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. Now, if you want to have a grasp of all that transpired in the show tonight, make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to read all that happened here on the show. Tonight, we are streaming live on our social media pages as usual. We are live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority on Facebook, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema, and on YouTube, we are streaming live at Iron Port. Now, we shall be getting interactive with you as usual, and so all you have to do is sit back, relax, grab your phones, and send us your messages and comments ahead via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0538-037353, 0538-037353. When the time is ripe and I pick signals from the production team, we shall activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We are going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the show. Please stay with us.
Brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP, available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP, Wufilia, huh? Wubefee. Goil, good energy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. My money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, welcome back. So we are now going to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry over the last week.
As part of efforts to bolster maritime security along Ghana's coastline, the Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Brigadier General Paul Seydou Tanya Kulono, on Wednesday, 9th April 2025, paid a courtesy call on the Flag Officer Commandant of the Eastern Naval Command, Commodore Maxwell Ahen. The visit underscored the shared commitment of both institutions to deepen collaboration in safeguarding Ghana's territorial waters, particularly around the ports of Tema and Takoradi. Brigadier General Tanya Kulono praised the Eastern Naval Command for its pivotal role in ensuring maritime security and noted that the rapidly evolving nature of the maritime industry calls for stronger partnerships to effectively address emerging threats at sea. He reaffirmed GPHA's continued support for the Navy's operations and collaborative initiatives that contribute to a safe and secure maritime environment.
When it comes to security, you are our pillar. Without your support, I don't think we'll succeed in providing the adequate security that we are supposed to provide at the ports. Same applies to Takoradi. I want to assure you that the areas of collaboration that we have been in the past, marine sector is evolving, and the same applies to the criminals and those oriented people. So if you want to sit down with us until we are told to do what is expected of us, we found one thing. So I expect us to be proactive, sure that we plan ahead, so that you can preempt things before happening.
In response, Commodore Maxwell Ahen expressed appreciation for the long-standing relationship with GPHA and assured the Director General of the Navy's commitment to sustained cooperation in maintaining security along the country's maritime domain.
On behalf of the command, I wish to welcome you to our humble command. You know, we've had a very good and lasting relationship with the Takoradi. So I think it's an order for you to come and visit us.
The Director General was accompanied by the General Manager for Estate and Environment, James Benjamin Gazy, the General Manager for Marketing and Corporate Affairs, Dr. Kingsley Nchibwe-Seakon, PSO Colonel Ben Laye Oduman, and the Security Manager for the Port of Tema, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Atobra Bonda.
Participants of Course 2 of the National College of Defense Studies have paid a study visit to the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority as part of their academic engagement. The visits aimed at providing participants with first-hand insights into institutions involved in policy formulation, statecraft, and international affairs, thereby enriching their understanding of real-world applications of their coursework. The participants were received by the Director General of GPHA, Brigadier General Paul Seydou Tanya Kulono, who is the former Director of Studies at the NCDS. The current Director of Studies at the NCDS, Brigadier General Frederick Ntiri, noted the overall objective of the visit was to enable participants to access how theoretical frameworks are applied in practice, especially within the evolving global, continental, and regional context. He further underscored the importance of aligning strategic leadership and policy making with sustainable development goals.
After the syndicate room discussions, we also do visits to institutions that relate to the topics that have been discussed. But most importantly, what sets our system at variance with what happens in many places is what we call the experiential research study tour, which takes us out of the classroom into the communities to try to fill in the gaps that we identify in the course of our lecture room discussions and then syndicate room discussions.
Addressing the participants, the Director General of GPHA, Brigadier General Paul Seydou Tanya Kulono, highlighted the authority's operational efficiency and ongoing initiatives aimed at reducing the cost of doing business at Ghana's ports.
Per our strategic plan, our intent is to make the ports of Ghana the preferred ports of doing business. If here is not attractive, we wouldn't get customers, especially from the landlocked countries. So we try as much as possible to have an advantage over them in terms of efficiency.
Delivering a presentation to the participants, the General Manager of Marketing and Corporate Affairs at GPHA, Dr. Kingsley Ntribuesiako, emphasized the authority's commitment to sustainable development, aligning with the principles of smart governance.
We try to come up with innovative technologies to simplify the things that we do here, operational efficiency, that is responsiveness, because the customer coming to you might want efficient service, and then stakeholder collaboration, safety and security, environmental sustainability. So these are some of the models, the classes that we think fit into how we are, governing in terms of smart.
Established in May 2023, the National College of Defense Studies is mandated to prepare selected senior military officers, qualified civil and public servants, as well as military personnel from allied African nations for strategic level leadership and staff appointments in the fields of defense and national security. The ceremony concluded with an exchange of plaques and gifts symbolizing the strengthening of collaboration and partnership between the college and the Port Authority.
The 2025 Educational and Career Fair at the Regional Maritime University concluded successfully earlier this week, offering high school students a unique opportunity to explore maritime education and career pathways. The two-day event, held in collaboration with the Ghana Maritime Authority, was themed Guiding Tomorrow's Leaders to Career Choices in the Maritime Industry. Students from 5 selected schools, Achimota School, Accra High School, Laboni Senior High School, Accra Academy, and Accra Girls Senior High School, took part in the fair. They engaged with RMU faculty, industry professionals, alumni, and exhibitors representing both public and private institutions within the maritime space. Exhibitors from the RMU Alumni Association and various corporate organizations contributed to the fair, showcasing innovations and career opportunities within the blue economy. Chairman of the Planning Committee, Dr. Eric Duncan, emphasized during the opening ceremony the importance of creating accessible platforms for the youth to discover opportunities within the maritime industry.
How will the Regional Maritime University address this issue of shortage of trained manpower? Will the answer be to improve maritime education and training, or to build more dormitories? Well, that could address the issue partially. However, the correct answer and the most effective strategy is guidance and career counseling.
Deputy Director of Maritime Services at the Ghana Maritime Authority, Barbara Dakon, spoke about the authority's partnership with RMU and its commitments to building the next generation of maritime professionals.
As you embark on a journey of decision-making and choices, I encourage you to explore the full breadth of opportunities within the maritime sector. I further urge you not to limit yourselves to familiar paths, but to be open to new emerging fields that will require innovation and forward thinking.
Sandra Labi, Chief Executive Officer of World Recruit Services Limited, a human resource firm facilitating seafaring opportunities for Ghanaians, shared insights on Africa's evolving role in global climate action and the maritime sector's potential in driving sustainable change.
As students and future leaders in the maritime field, you are at the forefront of this challenge, and the students in the second cycle institutions that are planning to join the maritime industry, you will be at the forefront of this change. So embrace the challenge of integrating sustainability into your studies and future careers. Advocate for policies that promote renewable energy and sustainable practices in maritime operations.
Principal Maritime Officer at the Ghana Maritime Authority, Magdalene Oforiade, delivered the keynote address highlighting the vast and growing opportunities in the maritime industry. She encouraged especially young women to consider careers in the sector and to break barriers in traditionally male-dominated fields.
And I can say on authority that from my graduating class, only a handful of us are still in the industry. Majority of my year group ended up in different sectors. So to ensure continuity and sustainability of the industry, leaders must commit to offering apprenticeship, internship, and even scholarship opportunities to bridge the gap between theory and practice, because the lack of practical exposure will force young professionals to seek opportunities in other sectors, leading to loss of valuable talent.
A special recognition ceremony was held to honor outstanding women who have significantly contributed to the growth of RMU and the maritime industry. Students who participated expressed appreciation for the exposure to real-world career options, meaningful interactions with professionals, and the chance to discover educational pathways they had never previously considered.
We hope that everything we have been taught here will impact it into our lives, and one day we'll find ourselves in the maritime industry.
The acting Vice Chancellor of RMU, Dr. Jethro Brooks Jr., spoke about the university's long-term expectations for this initiative and called for increased support from stakeholders to sustain and expand the fair in future editions.
But most of the seafarers in Africa, they have directly or indirectly gone through this university from 1958, the Nautical College. So all the support that we can get to continue to produce the qualified maritime professionals, we will accept that.
All right, so welcome back. Those were happenings in the port and shipping industry over the last week. We are now going for the word or phrase of the day. And remember, the word or phrase of the day has been fashioned to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. Today's word is deadweight tonnage. Deadweight tonnage.
Deadweight tonnage. Deadweight tonnage refers to a measure of how much weight a ship can safely carry, including cargo, fuel, fresh water, crew, and provisions. It represents the difference between a ship's loaded displacement and its light displacement. DWT does not include the weight of the ship itself. This figure is critical for determining a vessel's cargo carrying capacity and for compliance with port and canal restrictions.
And now to our health and safety tip for the week. And this week we're talking about acute vision. Acute vision.
Acute vision. Acute vision refers to having exceptionally sharp eyesight, enabling individuals to see clearly and in great detail. Key characteristics include better visual acuity, that is, seeing small details from a distance, a wider field of vision, improved night vision, and better depth perception. The benefits of acute vision include enhanced performance in activities like sports, driving, and reading, as well as increased appreciation for visual arts. It's also valuable in professions requiring precision such as surgery or forensic investigation. To maintain acute vision, regular eye exams, a balanced diet, UV protection, and limited screen time are important. Proper care helps preserve and even improve visual acuity.
All right, so we are zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we're taking a look at the 10% tariff that has been imposed by His Excellency President Donald Trump of the United States on all imports, into the United States of America. This was supposed to get into effect from the 5th of April, 2025, and Ghana is no island, and so we are also affected. And some of the commodities in Ghana that have been affected by this particular 10% tariff would include pharmaceuticals and copper, these are exempt. Now, our priority exports like cocoa, derivatives, shea butter, apparel, gold jewelry, cashew, fruits, and vegetables are expected indeed to be affected by this particular directive or measure by the U.S. government. And so today we're taking a look at the implications of the U.S. tariff policy on Ghana's export economy, how exporters are adopting on the ground, and what coordinated national response is required to chart a resilient way forward. Now, we put a call through to the Ministry of Trade and Industry and spoke with Mr. Mike Opoku. On the day we called him, indeed, they were at the round table trying to fix this issue and put one or two things together, and so they were supposed to get back to us. We haven't heard from them. But our information here on iImport is that, yes, they've met industry stakeholders and they are trying to chart a way forward to see how best this issue can be ameliorated. And so tonight we are trying to examine the impact or implications of this particular directive from the U.S. government. And with us in the studios, I'm proud to introduce to us Mr. Davis Kobo. Absolutely, thank you, sir. He's the president of the Federation of Associations of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE, and also with us in the studios. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Awesome. Also with us in the studios, no stranger to the show, Mr. Apia Kusi-Adumaku, who is the West Africa Director, CATS International Accra. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, and your viewers.
Absolutely. All right, so let me start with you, Mr. Kobo, and find out what the general reaction has been among Ghanaian exporters since the announcement of this tariff or this measure by the U.S. government.
So thank you very much, and let me begin by saying good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners. I think for me, it didn't come as a shock. It didn't come as a shock, but the only departure was especially when after AGUA is still in force and will expire in 30th of September, I would have thought.
That's AGUA, that's Africa Growth and Opportunities Act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One would have thought that President Trump would have waited for us to get there before announcing this 10% tariffs.
When was AGUA supposed to end?
30th of September.
September, okay, this year. Okay.
Yes. So we have some few, months away from now. But then again, you couldn't also fault him, especially when he campaigned at the back of generating employment for his people. Where is he going to get employment from? I mean, there's a dynamic policy in place for them to be able to do that. So once they are doing it, then there's no much we can do. But our biggest challenge at the time also was because people had contract in place.
Right.
Because of AGUA, most of our people exporters are exporting to the United States.
Yes.
So, of course, if you're exporting, there should be some sort of agreement. So once there are agreements in place, it's enforced. So people still have their systems on the high seas moving. So that was when the problem started eating in. But then again, thankfully, there's now a new dimension to it where we have a 90 days window.
Yeah.
So it means that one will decide whether to continue after 90 days or not. So it didn't come as a shock. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this also because it's also a wake-up call to Ghana for us to be able to develop our export sector. Develop our export sector as to what we are currently doing. Because I think for me, we as a country, we've not been able to transcend our goods beyond our borders.
Yeah.
Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because if you look at what we are currently doing, I know that Ghana Export Promotion Authority is doing a lot as far as trade facilitation is concerned, branding, exhibition, and other things. Ghana Investment Authority, corporate GIPC are also doing. They have a Ministry of Trade facilitating a lot of trade issues. But I still think that we should be able to tap into another market, alternative market, than allowing the Western countries to command or dictate our point of sales.
Right.
Once that happens, it becomes a big problem. As we speak now, I know that people are also taking advantage of it, so that is what we are trying to do. After alone, we have a GDP of 3.7 trillion, 3.4 trillion, controlling about 1.4 billion, 1.7 billion, population.
Yeah.
So that tells you that we can even do market among ourselves, do trade intertrade is very, very important. So if, but for anything at all, we should have been looking at that place. Because if you look at our export to the US, it's just between 6 to 7%, not much. But again, the cocoa products play a key role. how do you call it, our oil sector as well. So that tells you, irrespective of President Trump asking us to pay extra 10%, which is going to be a burden on the exporter, which is going to be a burden on the producer down there, because the margin for the producer is between 10 to 12%, and for the exporter, it's just a margin of about 5%. Yeah. So if you're asking somebody to pay, of course, absorb 10%, which in any case, I've checked with some contacts, and they are not ready to absorb that 10% out there. So it tells you that the 10% is going to be absorbed by the exporter here, which of course will trickle down as a negative to the final consumer. So these are some of the things I think that the feeling currently, initially it was bad, but then I think, hey, we need to take advantage of the current situation and make sure that we cash into it.
Would you say we are to blame for the situation in which we find ourselves? Because you just mentioned AFTA. This is a vehicle that's supposed to promote trade in Africa. Now, if we had maximized the potential and use of AFTA, do you think we would have found ourselves wanting at this material moment that this particular announcement has been made? Because we were told that AFTA had actually swung into action, but just few companies were able to export under AFTA. I don't think we can place a finger on more than 10 or 12 companies, perhaps, that have been able to do so since the inception. What is the challenge? Why can't we maximize this particular vehicle that's supposed to help us, develop our export sector?
I think for me it's infrastructure deficit and the bottlenecks. Because, for instance, yes, AFTA, but are we able to route it better? The answer here is no. Because, for instance, let's take Kenya, for instance. If you are shipping things to Kenya, it takes you 60 days. Right. The things will go all the way to Europe before descending, because we don't have dedicated vessels to Kenya. And of course, our freight charges are very high. So if you are going to go by air, then of course you are not going to make any meaningful impact. Yeah, so also, if you are talking about, even aside the breaking even, if you are talking about volumes, it is a non-starter, because the issue here is you can't get a cargo plane that will send you to those destinations. So that has been the problem. The bottlenecks has been the logistics, the infrastructure, and other things. And also, we've been talking about free movement of goods and people, but the issue here is that the case? The answer here is no, because if you leave, you transcend Ghana to other borders, the case is not. It's different from. I think you understand. So the movement itself is an impediment, and which, of course, I think that after the regional bloc should be able to address. For me, I don't see much about AFTA, and I said it during the roundtable when we met the Minister of Trade, because I think that
you met the Minister on this particular issue.
Yes, we met the Minister on Friday or so. Yes, there was a deliberate meeting for almost all the stakeholders to meet. So we met after we were present, and I said openly that I have not seen the impact of AFTA, but I'm also not going to blame them, because the issue here is if it's about funding, I think that the regional bodies involved should be able to contribute for them to make things right. Yeah, so if you are not doing that, then you can also blame them. But I also don't believe in a situation where people chat on just meetings upon meetings other than the right action, the actual action. Today, American cough and we are all sneeze and we are all shaking. Tomorrow, what will happen when maybe the Chinese, the European countries also do the same? Whereas, like I said, we have 3.4 trillion GDP within AFTA, which we can easily trade and make. If we even take billions out of it, 100 billion out of it, how much is our GDP here in Ghana? So these are some of the things I think we need to look at. There should be a deliberate effort for us to be able to develop our export sector. It is important we do that, and I'm happy. If there's anything I'm happy of, the interaction with the Minister of Trade, and also let me take this opportunity to also applaud Honorable Okudiatu Ablakwa, because I remember this whole thing started when I went on there with Joy News, and I was saying that, Lord, there should be some sort of discussion. They should be able to engage American government. And thankfully, just after the program, he quickly summoned the American ambassador. For me, I think that's the more reason why today maybe we are seeing the 90 days window, which of course we should be able to take
action.
What's the 90-day window supposed to do?
So the 90-day window, initially it was instant. Once the things get there, then I think the 10% will start at time. But the 90 days gives some comfort. Okay. And we are hoping that within these 90 days, they should be able to, she should come back and say, look, it's going to be zero tariff, which of course is never going to be. Because like I said, he's creating employment for his people. Right. And it doesn't matter whatever engagement we have.
So the 90-day period is supposed to help you to put your acts together.
Exactly. So for those who have their goods on the high seas now, I think that once they get there, it doesn't really start instantly.
Right.
That is my understanding of the 90-day
moratorium
window. So I think that these are something we need to really look at.
90 days. Good evening.
Yes.
I think another interpretation of the 90 days is that the 10% baseline is still going to apply for everybody. I think about 75 countries.
Yes. Right.
And China was excluded from. And China, it has gone to about 125%.
Yes.
And also, Trump is also using the 90 days to also compare countries to negotiate.
Okay.
And the 90 days will also permit America to assess the impact of the tariff.
Yeah, sure.
Yesterday, I saw a video from White House where U.S. government has seen, that the tariffs on iPhone phones and computers will be zero rated.
Okay.
And now they are going to look at certain raw materials that are critical for the U.S. economy.
Right.
Of course, Ghana produces cocoa. And export, our annual cocoa export to the U.S. about $200 million.
Right.
And U.S. doesn't grow cocoa.
Yes.
So you can't, if you put tariffs on it, you are doing the service to the
economy
Americans.
Over there,
And so the 90 days will also permit the U.S. to be able to know whether we can take some products off. Yes, and then maybe also consider some countries that have specific needs. Of course, this is a wake-up call for every nation that you cannot put all your eggs in one basket.
Of course, yes.
I think we become so overexposed to America. And like a bank, for example, if you're a bank and you lend about 80% of your credit goes to one particular company, and the company goes through bankruptcy, that company goes with the bankruptcy.
Absolutely.
And so, as a nation, we should be able to diversify our export lines. But one of the key challenges is that Ghana and most African countries under the AFCFTA, we all produce primary goods.
Right.
Because the one in Nigeria, one in South Africa is not looking for raw materials. They are looking for, let's say, mobile phone. They are looking for computer. They are looking for suitcases. They are looking for, lots of things. And those things, we don't have the capacity to be able to produce those things here. And so for AFCFTA to be able to work and for us to be able to trade among ourselves, we need to move beyond the primary level of trade whereby we only, take for example, Ghana trade with Burkina Faso. It's largely the fruit trade. Of course, we do well with pharmaceuticals and then plastics. But I think that we can go beyond these basic over-the-counter things and do more sophisticated production. That is where we can see the full benefit of AFCFTA.
Right.
I think to add to what he said, I think I agree perfectly with what his assertion. And this is where the value addition comes in. And so we don't have to send our things in the raw state. And I'm happy cocoa is still playing a critical role for the American government, because in any case, like he rightly said, if they should still put a tariff on it, we could still, because cocoa, we have a lot of destinations. We could decide to withdraw from American market and go elsewhere. The demand is high almost everywhere. So, but then it is going to be detrimental to the Americans themselves, because they will take the chocolate. So that's a bet. If they have to slap it on it, then we still want to ship there. It means that the 10% should be absorbed by them.
Right.
And they understand me. So I'm happy the 90 days window is going to create all this. And like I said, the value addition is the most critical part now. As I say, if we can't do it at this time, then we should better stop what we are doing and go fishing.
Right.
You understand? Because the issue here, and that is where the current government 24-hour economy and the export accelerated growth sets in.
Because for me, if we become intentional and are able to develop and add value to almost all our produce, if we are not able to do 100%, but we are able to do about 60%, it tells you that we're making a lot of foreign exchange to curtail the constant depreciation of the cedi against the major currencies.
Right.
This is one other thing that we have to do. So the 24-hour economy, I know that they are doing a lot because they work hand in hand with faith. The Ghana Export Promotion Authorities are also doing other things. Then I spoke about the promotion.
Yes.
I think that for me, it is about time the embassies all over the world also do a bit of promotion, because if they send you as an ambassador, as a chancellor, as a whatever, I think one of the
High Commissioner,
the High Commissioner, one of the things they also need to do, be able to promote what we do.
Yeah.
You understand me? So our exports and other things, they should be able to facilitate trade for us and be able to make sure that they get market.
Right.
Yes, so once we set in some sort of market intelligence and be able to identify where the markets are, the embassy should be able to also take it upon themselves to do that.
So maybe this should be incorporated into the KPIs.
KPIs
for the ambassadors and high
it's important because they have trade attaches
Right.
all over. But the question is, what are they really doing?
Doing, absolutely.
You understand me? Let's go back into history. Let's get to the data and see what the trade attaches in the past have been able to do as far as trade is concerned. You understand? So this is the more reason I think that I say it's a blessing in disguise. Today, I'm told that the likes of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and because they were not part of Africa. So Sri Lanka, for instance, is 44 plus 38%. And then Bangladesh, 36 plus 36%. So it's because they were not part of Africa, they were already doing 38 before. And they slapped 38 on them. So most of them are trying to move to Ghana, because if we are even going to do 10%, then it's even rather
it's
better
less,
for them in the government industry.
Right.
So it's going to make sure that our government industry booms to create employment and others. But all in all, I think that for me, and let me say it again, it is a blessing in disguise for us to be able to think and be intentional about our exports. Exactly.
All right. Awesome. So let me come to Mr. Adumako and find out from you what meaning or interpretation we should, as a country, give to this directive or this tariff hike introduction from the American government in the broader global trade environment.
Okay. Thank you, Kennedy. I think this tariff indicates that Ghana's trade is not going to be the same. Our economy is still not going to be the same, because as a country, that's where, with regards to export, and now one of your key markets has slapped tariff on your product. What it means is that the demand for Ghanaian products in the U.S. is going to go down. And if we are not able to find alternative route, what it means is that we'll suffer forex losses that could also cause the city to face some adversities. And so we need, as a country, to set up.
Already stabilizing it is a problem.
Of course.
Yes. And also, it's also, but one thing I want to say is that it's also creates, the word crisis is a Chinese word. It means challenges and opportunities.
Okay.
Now, this tariff has brought some challenges to Ghana. And of course, not only Ghana. We're even lucky. We got the
10%,
baseline,
yeah.
10%.
Yeah.
Others are, contending with 25% and 40%. But the 10% that we have also creates some crisis for us as a country. Most people may decide to look for but the good thing about Ghana's exports to the U.S. is that most of them are largely raw materials, and raw materials, America cannot get them there. With the exception of the textile and garment sector, another agua. Last year, I went to Koforidua. I saw a garment and apparel company. That company is involved in contract manufacturing.
Okay.
They manufacture their products and go straight to the U.S. brands like the Walmart and all the top
Burlington and the rest.
shows. And so this company will struggle because 10% on the product will make it more expensive But of course, the thing is that though 10% may make it expensive, but if the thing is produced in America, it will be more than 10% because the labor alone in America is so expensive. Goods in America are quite cheaper, but the labor cost. That is why Obama said that, look, we cannot bring every work back to America. At least America must be happy that it does well with technology and high IP level kind of work. And so the U.S. can still decide that, look, bring all those companies back to America. You may not even have the workforce. That's number one. Number two, if you have the workforce, it's going to also be expensive. And one of the problems with this whole issue of the Trump tariff is that it's also going to lead to the global recession, because as these production happens in the third countries, it also creates income opportunities for people living in Africa, Asia, even China. So that Chinese and Africans in turn can also buy American products. So now if all production goes to America and Ghanaians and Asians are left unemployed, will not be able to pay for a Netflix subscription, will not be able to pay for Microsoft product, will not be able to buy, and the U.S. export is going to go low. So you see that the total world economy will begin to shrink as a result of this tariff raiding agenda. But I think that as a country, it also creates an opportunity for us to start add value addition.
It's something that we've touted over a long time, but nothing seems to be happening in that direction.
Last 8 years, we had what we call 1D, 1F. But we didn't see much of products on it.
Under that policy.
We are looking to see what this current administration will replace it with. So that we can also increase Ghana export and also its competitiveness. You can increase the volume of export, but if you are not competitive in terms of the quality and cost, nobody will buy your products.
And that's the problem we have now. Our cost of production is very high. So we are not becoming competitive. So,
and then the other opportunities that comes with this issue is that it is also going to let us to reset the our industrial policy. No, I think our industrial policy was the current one was, I think, prepared in 2005 during President Kufuor's time. We need to go back now and thank God we live within the framework of reset agenda. Let's reset our industrial policy and make sure that Ghana will not be exporting raw materials, and that if we have to invest $10 billion into our manufacturing sectors in Ghana so that we can produce goods, let us not worry about America and Europe. Because once your product gets to Europe, if you look at cucumber and carrot, if it gets to the European market, it must be some dimension. Dimension. If it's not as long, they won't buy it. They won't even allow it inside.
So they measure some number of inches.
But if Ghana cucumber gets to Togo or Malawi, there's no technical barriers to trade on those products. So I think that we need to take this advantage of the Trump tariff and invest in our manufacturing base. If it means that government needs to support local businesses that have the capacity to produce and export, I think that one is better, so that we can reduce our export into other countries and focus on African market. Of course, the African market has its own challenges. My brother said it. We lack the infrastructure, trade logistics. If you want to ship goods from Accra, even from Takoradi port to Abidjan port, that ship, when it leaves Abidjan, when it leaves Takoradi, has to go to Madrid, and then further come downwards. And so people will rather find it easier to ship their goods to Europe, America, and Asia. We need to also find businesses that will come into the trade logistics. Last 2 years, we heard of Magdan Shipping. He said they're going to start the ship, ships.
The feeder sort of.
Yes, and I think that kind of conversation is missing. If
Right.
AFTA cannot be successful if you do not improve upon our trade logistics.
Right, right. Okay, so I just want to find out from you which of the products that we have in Ghana, I mentioned some earlier, that you think are going to be the hardest hit as far as this particular thing is concerned, and what should we be doing?
Okay, cocoa export to the U.S. close to $200 million. That is a lot of money. But the good thing is that cocoa is Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire.
Yes.
And so even if the tariffs goes up, people will still buy them because U.S. cannot grow cocoa in their country.
Yeah.
Though the demand may go down, but not that much. Then the testers, as I talk about, another agua.
Yes.
That one, if care is not taken, we may also suffer a fruit export. But there's also other things that I want to also assure Ghanaian exporters.
Yes.
You know, Ghanaians living in the diaspora, they like Ghanaian food. They like the Kobe, they like the Amanen and all sort of things.
Yes.
Regardless of how much tariffs that you put on it, Ghanaian will still buy the Ghanaian because they don't want to go and buy the Jamaican even plantain or the Jamaican yam. If you eat it in the diaspora, it doesn't taste nice for you. So,
like
so we may not suffer that much with, but in the short term, there may be some dip in our export revenue. Gold is such that there's demand for gold in every market. Even gold prices is even going up.
Right.
And now that most nations have found U.S. to be unreliable partner in the international trade, countries have started buying gold in exchange of, as an alternative to the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
So if our demand for gold is not met in, goes down in Washington, we can also look to the East, Beijing, Shanghai, Tokyo, Singapore, India, and Dubai, and Qatar, and Doha. These nations will be able to buy our gold.
Absolutely.
Just that, as my brother said, that there's also the time for us to rake in our ambassadors. I think His Excellency is yet about to list the new ambassadors. Yes, I think that they need to school them on how they can promote trade.
Absolutely.
They don't need to go and be sitting at the embassies and be taking tea and coffees and selfies and what have you. I think that they should be seen as an agent of trade. I think that the president should tell them, look, we want to increase our trade between Ghana and that country more than 100% within 2 years. If you're not able to do that, then you may have to bring you back home. If you do that,
it should be part of their key performance.
Yes,
KPIs. For them to.
Because we pay a lot. Last 2 weeks or so, Honorable Okujeto said that Ghana's rent abroad for the embassies, both the offices and the accommodations, close to $10 or $15 million per annum.
Wow.
So we are paying so much money on our Ghanaian expats abroad, but yet there's a little utility from these civil servants. We need to demand more from them. You know, the U.S. ambassador is here always fighting for U.S. company. Recently, we learned that the ambassador is even urging government to pay U.S. company that our government owes them. And last week, we also learned that one of the senators said that Ghana's next tranche from IMF should be used to defray the cost of the I mean, I think that is not what the agreement that falls outside the staff level agreement that Ghana has with the IMF. So I think we need to make use of our embassies as an engine of growth.
All right. So let's. Are there regional or multilateral avenues that we can explore in our quest to, as it were, ameliorate this situation?
I think at the multilateral side, the first one is the WTO, the World Trade Organization.
Right.
But Trump has shown his dislike to the WTO. You remember during his first term, U.S. Was against having the current DG for the WTO. And I think it was after Biden came into office that the Biden administration supported her candidature. So the WTO is kind of weakened, to be able to lead this agenda. But I think that Africa can also talk as a bloc.
Particularly when we have an African as the Director General of the WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala.
But Ngozi will only talk on WTO matters, not African matters.
Absolutely.
So I think that we can use AU. AU leaders, African heads of state must also meet, send their trade ministers to meet, and come with a position and go to Washington and talk with the U.S. ambassador, the Trump administration, and ask for special dispensation for Africa. You know, the reason why African country cannot allow duty-free on U.S. import, U.S. export into Africa here is that most countries do not have industries.
Right.
And if you allow goods that are coming from the U.S. duty-free, no tariff on them, what it means is that there will be no appetite for people to even start to set up those industries. And where the industries are even there, when you bring them there, they will come and what? Because they will come as cheap, and they compete with the local industries. In the long run, the local industries will collapse and there will be no job that will be created. That's number one. Number two, African countries also need the revenue, the tariff revenue to support. I mean, you are the port, you know the amount of revenue that government of Ghana gets.
Yeah.
If we were to take the port revenue from government budget income, the whole country will cave in just a day like that. But one thing that America is also not seeing is that U.S. as a big brother, your currency is also the global currency.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that confers America some advantages that other countries do not have.
Yeah.
For example, in 2019, when the dollar started to gain value, it made the crude oil prices to go up. And so countries will have to what? Gather more local currencies to be able to buy. And countries were suffering because of the dollar power. And so you can't expect countries like, 2022, for example, our cedi began the year at 5 cedis and then we ended at 15 cedis to $1.
Right.
And the dollar became more like what? An iron feet of oppression to the Ghanaian economy. Of course, we can blame our own mismanagement. And if you are a big brother in the house and there's you've gone for a meeting or a lunch with you and your small brothers, you don't expect to share the cost evenly between you and your small brothers. Sometimes they even have to pay that. So America, the leverage that it gets as its currency, as a world reserve currency, should also be able to accept the fact that countries can also use tariff to be able to correct the effect of the dollars on their import and their external bill of payment. Of course, I'm against the excessive tariff. You know, when you go to the EU, putting 30% on U.S. goods, that is also unfair. I think that they need to also look at it.
Right.
But you can't ask countries to remove tariff, 0% tariff from their from 0% tariff on import that are coming to the country.
Right. Awesome. All right, so this is our import here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we are taking a look at the 10% sweeping tariff announced by President Donald Trump on imports into the United States of America. Ghana is also affected. We're examining the impact and implications on exports in Ghana. And tonight with us in the studios, we have Mr. Apia Kusi-Adumaku, who is the Director, West Africa Director of CATS International Accra, and indeed Mr. Davis Kobo, who is the President of the Federation of Associations of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE. These are the two gentlemen we are having a discussion with. We are going for a quick break. When we return, I'll come to you and find out from you what specific support you as exporters need in terms of infrastructure, in terms of incentives to make you competitive, even with this directive. Stay with us, viewers.
Energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a GOIL station today and energize your ride with GOIL Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. GOIL Super XP will feel ya, huh? Will be feel. GOIL, good energy. Ja, ya, ya.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302-246-319 or 0243-690-492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, welcome back. So straight to Mr. Kobo and find out from you what specific government intervention or support you would require exporters in terms of infrastructure, in terms of incentives, in terms of trade facilitation to get you to remain competitive in the face of this tariff. Okay, so before you go, let me announce the phone line so that if we have viewers that wants to call and contribute, they can call in. The number to dial will roll right on your screen pretty shortly. That's on your screen there, 0245834980. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. Pretty shortly, we shall come to the inbox and also share your messages with the rest of the world and get our guests to proffer some responses.
The exporters need some tax breaks. It's important. Government look at giving them some tax breaks. And also, you see, there should be a special purpose vehicle funding for exports.
Right.
And it's auxiliary things. Because why am I saying this? Currently, the base rate is 28%. And if one should go and borrow at 35% for such business, I don't think that we're going to be competitive. Of course, our cost of production is high because of all these sales. And we have tariffs, electricity tariffs, high, I mean, everything. So it is just important that we have, government should create some special purpose vehicle for exporters where they enjoy some single digit interest rate. Once that happens, they become competitive. And I'm also looking at the infrastructure, roads, and other things to various farms, electricity, and the likes, and also develop the ports. I know, I'm aware that they are developing the Takoradi port and the like. But let me tell you a story. As we speak today, the Shed 9 fruit terminal in Shed 9 is still in concession.
Right.
Because, you know, under President Kufuor's regime, he told the producers that they'll go and invest your millions of dollars in the farms, whilst you enjoy some, how do you call it, tax breaks, I mean, tariffs and other things, the rebates at the port. But I think for every successive government, once they come, the stevedoring lands, they see it to be a cash cow. They don't see why they should leave it with the exporters, the fruit terminal. As we speak, if we draw the stevedoring license from the fruit terminal, you can check from the port. And, you know, they were going to add some tariffs to it. That was the previous regime.
Right.
How to come in strong. We met the previous DG of Ports and Harbour several times to the extent that cabinet gave the direction that they should release the, how do you call it, the stevedoring license. But as we speak, we still don't have it. And for me, it is important that they go by what cabinet directives.
Right.
You understand me? And again, if you look at the infrastructure, we have a lot of deficits, and these are some of the things we need to be able to do. Because let's compare ourselves to the original blocks. Let's go to Cote d'Ivoire, for instance, and see what they are doing.
Right.
Yes, these are the same people we are exiting the market with.
Right.
So it's important that we learn from what others are doing. And also, one thing I think we should also look at is also market intelligence, where we really do a lot of survey and see where the markets are, and also see how vibrant those markets are. And that's the more reason why I think that the current ambassadors, the commissioners who are going to go out, His Excellency the President should include as a KPI for them to be able to facilitate those ones.
Yeah.
You understand? Because they are there. We sit in Ghana, we can still deploy our arsenals from here. But once they are close to the market, it's important that the trade attaches there are able to work. Yes, it's important we do that. Then also the value addition bit.
Right.
I think that, like my brother said, we've had the one district, one factory, where there was some sort of effort to add value to our products. Because once you sell in the raw state, it becomes a problem.
Right.
So once you add value, then that's where you have the premium value. So we think that there should be deliberate effort, and that's the more reason why I keep saying that it's a blessing in disguise.
Right.
That we should take this President Trump 10% to be able to iron out all the nitty-gritties and make sure we move from our current state of export to another. If you look at the agri sector, for instance, the export, we are the leading exporters to the U.S. market, $52 million annually, and the second by Jamaica, who are doing $51.70 million. So the fresh produce, and again, if we add value to it, gluten-free, the young flour is hot cake everywhere. Currently, as we have the orange flesh potatoes, that I think that Ghana can be used as a hub, because our weather is good for it. We have the manpower to be able to grow it and prohibit it to Europe and elsewhere. So I think that these are some of the things we need to be able to develop the sectors. Let's put a lot of money into our export. Let's put a lot of money into our trade facilitation for us to be able to get it. Once we add value to it and Ghana becomes the hub, we can also cause some of this block, because the issue here is it's alternative to flour. I mean, currently wheat. Ukraine, Russia, we are having issues with wheat, and like post-COVID, it builds your immune system. So once we're able to add value to most of these things, like I said, gluten-free, everybody wants to be people are now health conscious all over the world. The same yam that is being slapped 10%, if we add value to it to the same America, I think we're able to get premium value for it. You understand me? But I keep saying that government has the biggest purse, and until they spend the private sector can never be viable.
Yeah.
You understand me? So if we have our neighboring countries, our competitors doing single-digit interest rate, and we are still doing 30-something, I think it is, for me, it is a no match.
Right.
You understand me? It is a no match. So I think that these are some of the things we urge government to look at and deal with the stakeholders. It's important we deal with the stakeholders rather than calling someone who is not a stakeholder. Because if you deal with the stakeholders, you are able to unearth all the issues and be able to address it.
Yeah.
So, so these are some of the things I think that we should be looking from government.
Okay. So let's take some messages now. This one is from Yao in Tema. Yao says, these tariffs should wake us up. We've depended too much on one market for too long. It's time we take after seriously and push into other African countries. This one says, thanks for this discussion. Our cashew business depends on the U.S. buyers. If they cut back due to price hikes, we lose. Is there a plan for new buyers in Europe or Asia? This one is from Isaac. He's a cashew farmer in Wenchi.
Yeah, I think for cashews, like our cocoa, I mean, cashew, you know, the Indians buy the raw cashew from here, ship back to India and process and send it back. These are some of the things we are looking. We are saying that, look, currently as we speak, there's what we call the Tree Crop Development Authority.
Right.
They are supposed to regulate and promote 6 crops: mango, cashew, oil palm, rubber, shea, and coconut.
Yeah.
So I think that instead of us looking at the raw state, let's rather be intentional by adding value to it. Once we add value, we're able to ship to everywhere, because the destination for cashew is a lot.
Right.
I get people always coming to Fage who want Vietnam, somebody in India, still again, you know, Brazil, a lot. Currently, so we have UC Bras and Co here who are processing, adding value to cashew and shipping. So the raw cashew nut is what I think that we should start discouraging, because as we stand now, but rather add value to it, and the market will get the market.
Awesome. All right, this one says, let's stop reacting and start planning. This tariff is tough, but maybe it's time to fix the high cost of doing business in Ghana so we can compete anywhere. This one's from Kwesi in Tema.
Yes, I agree that cost of doing business in Ghana, not even cost of living in Ghana is high.
Right.
Cement prices have gone up even before the ECG announces tariff. Because of the inefficiencies in the sectors here, electricity prices is also going to increase price of the utilities. It's also going to compound the high cost of doing business. And we cannot compete if we don't come to the level of efficiencies in the way we do our things.
Right.
ECG is operating, but there's a whole lot of inefficiencies in the power sector. And anytime they run, their books runs red, they come to you and I to pay more for power, and we also need to also convince government to also stay within his target.
Yes.
So that government doesn't overborrow so much. That will also cause the city to depreciate. And we have seen some commitment from this new administration.
Right.
But largely, as a country, we need to look at how we can have a strong macroeconomic fundamentals such that Ghanaian goods can go, because look, someone borrows, takes a credit in Egypt for 5%, and you've taken a credit here in Ghana, you are paying 40%. How can you compete if you are to produce and export into the same market?
That's true.
You can never compete with that person. So we need to do well as a country. And I'm not seeing this kind of narrative. I think it is missing from our governance system, that how we can make sure that we can drive the cost of doing business in Ghana, cutting down all the red tape. There are so many bureaucracies that are also adding up to the cost of doing business. We need to cut all those things so that private sector will be able to operate and export at competitive prices.
Right. Okay. This one says the U.S. is protecting its own. Ghana must do same. How soon can we ramp up infrastructure so we can process more here before exporting? This one's from Josephine in Tamale.
If every country is able to ramp up infrastructure and produce finished goods, at the end of the day, nobody will be able to buy anyone's goods. And so international trade is very, very good. We say in economics that specialize in what? Your competitive advantage, where your advantage is. Of course, U.S. has told us, Ghana, that we need to sit up again and look at where our advantage is and where and how we can explore that one to our advantage. Of course, Ghana and Nigeria can agree that, look, Ghana can say, look, Nigeria, we are going to do A, B, C, D, and D. Let's produce this and export to your market so that you also buy these things. We also come and buy certain things from you. This kind of bilateral trade agreement can also help us to avoid the cost of putting goods from here to America. It gets there for almost 6 weeks before it gets to the port in the U.S. But Accra to Abidjan and Lagos, within 3-4 days, the goods are there.
Right. This one says, good evening, Iron Port. This tariff announcement is worrying. We've worked hard to grow exports to the U.S., and now our efforts could be undone. What support is government offering small-scale exporters like us? This one's from Miriam, agri-exporter in Adra.
Yeah, so I think basically it's the same language we are all speaking here. There's nothing one can do about it because it's their trade policy. President Trump just didn't wake up to do this. They have a system that mandate him to do all this, and he has come up with it. So it's up to us to see how best we can handle it. I know that the Ministry of Trade are also putting their hands together to see how best they can support this because they are aware that it's going to create a lot of problems for exporters. So I know the minister and the ministry and government are also doing their bit. We'll keep engaging them to see how soon we can have that done, because there should be a discussion and conversation. And of course, that is what we are currently doing, because nobody knew this would happen. Even though it didn't come as a shock, but we didn't anticipate this, especially when the AGUA initiative is still in session and it's going to expire in September.
Right.
You understand me? But once they've done that, I think, hey, but like my brother said, the 90-day window, let's see whether they will come back to say that it's going to be a zero tariff or it's going to be, well, I don't think that's going to happen. So Ghana as a country should be intentional. And I'm happy the Adrian lady is coming, because like I said, the producers themselves, the margin is just between 10 to 12%. And even that 10 to 12%, it means that they bend their back. You understand me?
Yeah.
So this is really going to affect them. So we need to be able to see how best we handle it. We can really assure them that we'll still be engaging the ministry and see how best they help them.
Right. You want to add something?
And also, I think as a lawyer, I'm still finding it difficult to wrap my mind on the AGUA and the U.S. tariff.
Right.
Because AGUA is an act passed by the U.S. Congress, African Growth and Opportunity Act, passed in year 2000.
Yes.
That allows African countries to export goods to the U.S. market after meeting some criteria. Of course, AGUA expires September 30th. And these Trump tariffs are executive actions. And in law, you cannot use executive actions to override statutory provisions.
Right.
And so we are still waiting to see how there could be a proper interpretation. Of course, Congress can decide to, it is the power of the Congress that can decide to rip apart AGUA.
Right.
And maybe within the next 90 days, we may hear from U.S. Trade Administration as to where AGUA stands within this Trump tariffs.
So to you, how do you think consumer and trade advocacy can help shape policy in response to this particular directive? What role can that play?
I think first and foremost, government needs to commission experts. We have a trade economist in Ghana to look at the potential implication, quantitative. We need to be able to quantify the potential implication of the Trump tariffs on the Ghanaian economy, the short term, medium term, and the long term, and what would be the possible options that we can follow. But it appears that we've just called for meetings and people are just talking, but we are not coming up with any concrete, any figures, any facts and figures. I think that one is missing. And it's still not too late that His Excellency and the Ministry of Trade can we have brilliant Ghanaians who can do that. That should be the first point of call.
Yes.
Ghana blueprint on trade, and also we have it to really look at our trade policy to see where are the faults and how can we enhance it in the era of the Trump tariffs, because now America has come with tariff. And also even if China also wakes up another day and say, look, there's tariff. So we need to be able to build our trade policies and have all of this resilience in it, so that if one day Europe says that, look, no goods from Africa again, then our market, our economy will not shrink. So we need to have all of these things as part of our trade policies.
Right.
But for advocacy, trade CSOs, and policy think tanks and academia, I think that we can also continue to write and publish sound and credible articles, use evidence to let the U.S. government to know that the action that they are taking could also hurt the U.S. economy and the world economy. And also tell our government, propose alternative path to government as to where we should follow in the midst of these uncertainties in the international trade.
Right, right. Okay, so let me find out from you. Would you endorse an interministerial committee sort of to tackle this, comprising perhaps the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Agric,
Finance,
and Finance, yes.
Yes,
I mean, interministerial.
I think national security.
National security, because I think I will endorse it. It's important to do that, and I'll go by what Council just said.
Yes.
It is important that we commission such ministerial committees for them to quickly, as it were, start working on it. Because the issue here is, today is America. We don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think that it is important we do that now. I will clearly endorse it. But I also say that once that is endorsed, and the CSOs and other things will also come together and see how best this thing can be handled. Because for me, I think that it is something we should take serious. And that's the more reason why I keep saying that it is a blessing in disguise for us to be very intentional about our how do you call it, our export.
Yes.
To even get to know that our last industrial trade policy was in 2005. I think for me, we are in 2025, so 20 years ago. So these are some of the things we really need to look into, because the policies of yesterday can be the policies of today or tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So these are some of the things we need to. So the entire ministerial committee should even look at how soon these trade policies can be reviewed.
Right.
It's important we look into that.
Right. Right. So the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, I know, established the Ghana Trade House in Kenya.
Kenya, yes.
Given the circumstance at this period, do you think that it is imperative for them to replicate same, perhaps in other strategic countries that would foster, our exports promote our exports within Africa?
Okay, I know they are trying to replicate same in a couple of African countries. I'm aware. I don't remember the countries where. Even as of even last week, they are almost at the end of opening 3 other countries.
Okay.
So I think that it is a blessing.
But you are an exporter. How effective has that trade house been?
It is very effective, because, like I said, when you go to Kenya, for instance, our tons arrive and it's hot cake.
Right.
You sell yam there higher than.
Is it and after?
Yes,
okay.
You sell yam there higher than what goes into American market, the price of American market.
Right.
But the difficulty here is it takes you 60 or more days. Your vessel will have to go all the way to Europe before descending.
Yeah.
These are some of the things. That's the more reason why I think that.
So in terms of infrastructure, we need those vessels, the feeder vessels that Mr. Adumako mentioned.
Exactly. And I think that we should go back to Magdan to find out because years back he was going to develop what I call the trotro vessel.
Yes,
so it means they pick and get to the final destination, which would have been.
And I think we had MV Adobia run by Mr. Stanley Aholu.
Yes.
Which also at some point last week he was here. He enumerated some challenges that they hit. the fact that they had to go to the individual countries to negotiate the tariffs for them and all that, and they thought that they should have gotten that support premised on the fact that this was a feeder thing. It was within Africa, and so you don't treat us as a big commercial vessel that has come to dock in your port and all that. So those were some of the challenges that actually got them to fold up.
And that has been my difficulty with AFTA. You understand? Because if it's within Africa and we are unable to dialogue or maybe have a proper conversation about the tariffs, then why lies this whole AFTA secretary? But don't forget that we house AFTA in Ghana here. So we should be able to make a lot of negotiations.
Yes, but you are the exporters, and so don't you think a lot lies on you to be able to marshal businessmen and sell this idea to them, give them a proposal that, look, this is a gray area that you can come into, and so you can perhaps form a consortium, buy a vessel or two, and then you are in business.
I think
is that not possible?
We started this years back. We started engaging most of the businessmen to do that. And I'm happy you rightly said that Mr. Holu came here and lamenting about the challenges. So it could be the same challenge that other businesses businessmen are foreseeing. That was the more reason why they are unable to put in money. So, but I think this time around we should be able to see how feasible this thing works. Because for me, I'm happy that the tariff wasn't slapped on Ghana alone. Most of the African countries.
Absolutely.
You understand me? So it will give us the appetite for us to work as a block, to be able to trade among ourselves. Because if you have 3.4 trillion GDP, I don't see why we should be crying over American market.
Absolutely. Yes, Mr. Adamako, so if you can give us your perhaps one or two recommendations in the short term that you think can help ameliorate the situation. We have barely 2 minutes to go.
Okay, so first I want to say that about the ship. When we were kids, history book told us that Ghana had a Ghana Blaster Shipper line.
Yes.
And we collapsed it. We had the railway lines, we collapsed it. We had the factories that were producing finished goods, and we've collapsed all of them. So anything good that our forefathers left us, we've kind of collapsed them. And now they are all coming to hunt us back. Until we go back, and Nkrumah started this import substitution policy to make sure that everything, even beer bottle, we're making them here. Record, Apawa, Thai, Bonsa factories, everything. He knows that if you must have a car, you must have a tie on it. But as a country, for many years, we allow all of those companies to collapse, and we were living on import, and those import is also hurting the economy, putting more pressure on our local cities. And all that is happening with the Trump tariffs should help us set up to build a country where we can reduce our exposure to one, import, and also our exposure to export. Look at Germany. Germany economy is also export driven. The Chinese one is also. But the good thing about China is that China has the numbers, so they can still consume more.
Absolutely.
So Ghana, we need to be able to build our economy to be able to also produce, consume, and export the little one abroad. So that once you do that, you are not exposing yourself so much to import and export. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Apia Kusi Adumako is the West Africa Director for CATS International, Accra, and indeed in the studios with us has also been Mr. Davis Kobo, President, Federation of Associations of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE, and we've been examining or looking at the implications or impact of the 10% sweeping tariff announced by U.S. President Donald Trump on imports into the U.S., which Ghana is part, and what we can be doing as a country to make our exporters, as it were, competitive and resilient in the face of this particular directive by the U.S. And so we'd like to say big thanks to you gentlemen for obliging us. We know as friends of the show, as and when the need arises and we call you, we'd always oblige us. Thank you so much. We're grateful to you. I would like to say at this juncture a big thanks to our sponsors, Ghana Revenue Authority, Guel PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, MPS, and indeed Phoenix Insurance. Remember, the show is powered by Ghana Pulse and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and we entreat you to watch the abridged version of our report on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on Ghana Television GTV. Keep watching the rest of our programs here. Remember, it's been the Palm Sunday edition of Iron Port. And next week, God willing, we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of your favorite show. My name is Kennedy Mona. We wish you a super week ahead. God bless, and thanks for choosing us. Good evening.